tonight. Hi, Alexis. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing okay. I had pretty good energy all day, and then I kind of came down to a blah moment, but I have some red wine here and
Yes.
I'm listening to the
Cheers.
rain outside and I'm feeling the energy and I'm excited for this conversation.
And
How
you look
are you?
amazing.
Thank you so
Everyone, if you're watching the video, because I know some of you listen back to the Spotify, definitely watch the video version because I'm loving Alexis's outfit tonight. And I remember she was really excited to get this shirt. It's a shirt, right? Like
Yeah,
what you're wearing. Yeah.
it's you can
It's like
see.
a Sacred Heart shirt. Oh my gosh. And it's like it fits really good because I know you were like curious
Yes, I
about
did.
that.
I
Yeah.
had to hem. So these here were just a little too long because I have like the body proportions of like a child, and it gets very annoying with these types of
Right.
clothes because especially with the boob area, like I don't have big
Yeah.
boobs, so like that'll
Yeah.
usually be really like loose, or with these puffy sleeves they're usually a bit too long because of the
Mm,
proportions are
yeah.
just supposed to be more womanly and I'm just very childlike. So I had to hem this in the back a little bit for the sleeves, but other than that, it fits great. And
Yeah. It looks
I'm just like
awesome.
super happy because I took a chance. I don't usually like get stuff like this, but I haven't seen anything like it. And I kind of was like,
Yeah.
you know what? Treat yourself.
Yeah. It's like the Sacred Heart energy, which I'm really feeling that. I mean, it's just
Me
so
too.
spot on and it's gorgeous. I love it.
I'm feeling very in tune for sure. Like, I know it's a physical image representation, but my energy, I feel very connected and in tune. So it adds up
Yeah.
and
It's
matches
it's
up.
you. It's absolutely you. And that's what I'm like vibing with. I love it.
Thank you. And you look gorgeous
Thank
every
you.
single one of these. So come
I
on.
don't know about that.
But how are you
Tonight,
feeling?
yeah, tonight I feel pretty good. Today's been like a really high energy day in like the best ways. I've been really productive. I've been proud of myself. I've been holding on, very productive, busy, but then I've also balanced it out, which like
Oh,
when it comes like this time at night, which we're recording or we're live at 9 p.m. Eastern time, like by this time, I'm like, if I don't get it done as far as like emails or posts or anything of that nature, I'm just done. I'm done for the
mhm.
night. And I am in the midst of crocheting Christmas gifts. And so I really need to like stay on top of that as far as like my evenings, my wind down time is for that because, obviously deadlines. And so yeah, I'm in a pretty good mood. I've had a good day and I was very high energy earlier and I was playing with my little one. We had a dance party and now I'm like wine also and I'm crashing because I'm not a 5-year old. And so I'm like, whew, that was a lot of energy.
Yes, it
So I'm
was.
excited to be here though. I'm excited about the conversation tonight as we'll discuss visitation or part two of visitation
Hmm.
dreams. And this one is specific to spirit guides and entities. So I'm really excited about this. And yeah, so those of you who are here live, I see there are a few of you. Feel free to say hi in the chat, no pressure. Mary's here and she says, happy, blessed evening, everyone. And she also loves your shirt, Alexis.
Thank you, Mary. It's so good to have you on.
Yes.
You know,
And
it's
Jace,
funny. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
go ahead. Yeah,
I was
continue.
just gonna say you brought up like how you're doing your crocheting for Christmas presents. I keep forgetting that next week is Christmas. Like every
Nice.
single time it's brought up, and it's brought up multiple times a day, I'm like, wait, what? It doesn't feel like Christmas. And I don't know, it doesn't, I don't know how to explain it. It feels off. The weather around here is really like warm and
Warm, yeah.
odd, and then freezing and then warm. And there's just not a Christmassy energy
Yeah.
in the air for me personally. And I feel like it's affected a lot by like what's going on, circumstances occurring. I am, however, feeling very connected to the solstice and like really
Mm-hmm.
excited to celebrate that change. So
Yeah.
Christmas
Yeah.
for me is like a meh, but
Yeah.
solstice, I'm hyped.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't avoid Christmas now because I have a
Mm.
little one. And I think after this year, it's going to be cemented like the beauty of Christmas as a child.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel it's really interesting because being an adult, it comes so quickly. Like even if you don't have kids, it comes through. You're like, oh my gosh, it's already solstice, it's Christmas.
Oh yeah.
And when you were a child, it was like it took forever. I remember I was like, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, this is like a whole entire year and like what, 25 days of the month.
Even the night of took forever. I mean, I would
Yes,
lay in my
yes,
bed and stare out the window. Like, of course, I was super imaginative as a kid, and I would literally just keep my eyes open as long as I could to try to catch Santa and the reindeer and the sleigh in the sky and just like all that shit.
yeah,
And it was so
yeah.
magical. But now it's like, I don't know, it's different. I'm sure there's still a lot of spark having a child and watching that excitement.
Yeah. Well,
But
it's
like,
fun to get like for me, I love giving gifts and I like to pay attention to what she's into. And so it's really fun just to yeah, just to have that experience with her and see how she likes it. But I'll be honest, like, and I think this is just a thing with kids today, like nothing trumps the iPad. Like she got a bunch of presents for her birthday and like she was really excited like the first like day or two. And
mm-hmm.
then like she just like back to like her games. And I'm just like, do I even have to get like 20 plus gifts for Christmas? Can I just get you five? And like that's
You
an eating
can.
ration. And I can. So that's something I was really sitting with. Um, but yeah, no, it's just really interesting. But yeah, so that's a good segue into just the cosmic climate. Jace is here. Jace said hello, ladies. Hello, Jace.
Hey,
Thanks for being here
Jace.
again. So thank you for saying hello. And for those of you who are watching, maybe you're new here, feel free again to say hello. And if you want to share any of your dream perspectives on the topic tonight, or really anything pertaining to dreams, astral travel, and mysticism, feel free to share it in the chat. And yeah, if you have any questions on the topic that we're sharing tonight, feel free to leave that there as well. So we have Ashes to Ashes. I feel that I've seen this name before.
Yes.
Says Path with heart always, cool shirt. And they say,
Thank
hey,
you.
y'all, missed you last week because I took a nap after work and slept through your show. So still embrace dreams during that time. LOL. That's perfect.
When you're not with us, you're still in
Yeah.
the dream space.
We're
You're all
charging up your space
connected.
now. Yes, especially since you left that here. So we know, like, if we don't see you, if we don't feel your energy, maybe you're napping, and we're just gonna send you those like dream vibes in that space. And Jen's here.
Hey,
Hello, Jen. Jen
Jen.
says hello. So cheers to everyone tonight.
Cheers.
So, the cosmic climate for this week is really, really chill. And it's really fitting for the fact that we're coming into the solstice. I believe the solstice is Saturday night, the 21st. And yeah, it's like with the solstice in itself, it is a point of stillness. This is the point in which the sun reaches its lowest point in the sky here in the northern hemisphere, and from our apparent view, it stays still or it doesn't move for 3 days. So it's just kind of at that resting point for those 3 days. And it is the longest, the 21st, the solstice night is the longest night for us. And then once we move through those 3 days, or really like after the solstice point, then we'll start to see the daylight increase like slowly but surely. And that's great. But also, I like to remind people this is the beginning of winter.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
we don't even like
It's
Aquarius
just
season
the
is like the
beginning.
peak of winter where it's like, oh, like you're in that cold, like dark winter time. So yes, the daylight is growing, but I'm going to balance that energy out and be like, we're just getting started with winter. So let's get cozy. Like, let's rest up and, hibernate. I did a live tarot reading on Instagram today, and I talked about like productive rest and what that's coming forth for me. And I know, Alexis, you're doing this as well, is like, having those moments in your day where you can like go into like a travel, like a deep meditation where you can astral travel, or maybe you're laying down and you're listening to a guided meditation, or like, high frequency music, like very peaceful singing bowls and things of that nature. And you're resting, but then you're also like increasing your vibrational frequency.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're fortunate enough, you can travel and have those kind of experiences.
Yeah,
So
this
yeah,
is this is an interesting time of the year. I love solstice. I love winter. I love the solitude and the silence and just the crispness of everything. But there are a lot of people who have a difficult time through this period. So I would think of this period as like, you know, a rest period in between, you know, it's in between death and life, death and rebirth. You know, take this time to focus on things that don't take as much energy and allow yourself to be relaxed, allow yourself to take a step back, you know, reserve your energy a little bit, preserve it, and maybe even connect more with yourself in that silence, because if there's some things that are can be difficult for us, it's finding that silence alone time for with ourselves. So even if it's difficult, it might be a good time for that.
Yeah. Yeah, I really connect to the Hermit card in the tarot deck at this time. Just even with the lantern, and it's just
Mm-hmm.
like it's brisk. And this is the time of year where I honestly stay up late at night. I haven't been, my schedule's been really funky because my daughter started preschool, and so I have to get up early, which I'm like, oh, I don't want to get up that early and then have to be responsible for people and things. Like it's not fun. Like when I get up, I like to like come in this space if I'm not already in this space and light some candles, like light some incense and start doing my thing. But that's not how my day has been started. And so it's been all over the place. But my nostalgic feeling and connection to winter is, yeah, where it's like the mornings are, I have the slow mornings or like the late nights, and I have my candles lit and I'm in my journals and I'm just vibing out with, you know, tarot cards and all of those things. And, you know, even when it's snowing outside, that's the best because it's like the way that snow like affects the sound, where it just adds this extra level of like peacefulness and quiet. Like whenever you go outside and it snowed, you go outside at night, it's
It's
like
my
the best
favorite
feeling.
time. Like I cannot, there's nothing to compare it to.
Yeah,
Like
it's the
ever
best.
since I was a little kid, my favorite thing was going out in the middle of the night and walking down the street after it snowed, and you just have the lights from the like street
Yeah.
lamps, and everybody's just kind of like talking and getting deeper into conversation, and then there's a lot of silence, but it's comfortable silence and the crisp cool air. It's something that is
Oh, nice.
uncomparable. And if you have the opportunity, I highly suggest going to the beach during this type of energy too.
Wow. Never thought
Like,
about that.
I
Yeah.
don't go to the beach in the summer. I'm a weirdo, whatever. The sun and me aren't friends. Like, look at me. And so the way for me to connect to the ocean is to go during the winter because it's that silence, that crispness. There's no fear of, you know, being burnt to a crisp. There's no overwhelming energy of people there. Like there's usually nobody there, so it's just peaceful. And the quiet crispness of when the snow hits and the ocean sounds are just amplified. If you guys ever get an opportunity, go to the beach in the winter.
Yeah,
Don't go in the water though.
I have to keep that in mind. Well, yeah. Don't go in the water, friends. I've been next to like lakes and ponds. Like here, there are tons of lakes. Actually, we're gonna go drive around a local lake that has like Christmas lights tomorrow night.
Ooh.
And but it's not cold enough, you know, but usually like you know, it's all ice, right? And there's like snow on the lake and everything. So we won't have that experience this year, but it'll be cool nonetheless. And yeah, I just really enjoy this period of year. And, you know, it makes me very nostalgic for Colorado because that's really the only place I've enjoyed snow. Because there's a lot of it. And the snow
Mm-hmm.
there, it's so fluffy and dry. And then you get like the combination of the sun too. So it's like you're warm, like at least during the day, right? Obviously, but you're
Mm-hmm.
warm and like that like beauty of the snow and just the silence and everything and the peacefulness. And so
I'm gonna
yes,
have to go there. I've never been.
we have to go. We'll go together.
Yeah, we
Like we'll
should
do a
because
whole
it
like
just sounds so beautiful and up my alley.
and just to like be able to go on like the little small hikes like during the snow time is really
Oh
nice too.
yeah.
Like snowshoeing is really cool. So I do like Colorado really turned me on to snow, because in Maryland and DC, like the snow is kind of gross. It's like slushy because it's not super cold and it gets dirty, and yeah, but in Colorado it's beautiful.
I lived on
So
a dead end street, so it didn't really get dirty. So I really
yeah.
had that type of like winter wonderland.
I'm funny though. I'm weird.
Why?
Yeah. I don't know. I just like of how I don't like dirty snow. I'm like, and
Oh
I
no,
see my daughter that way too. She's like, oh, it's
dirty
dirty,
snow
it's
is
gray.
gross. You
Yeah.
are totally valid in that. Nobody wants to go play in like dirty snow. Like my favorite thing in the oh, I think I
Oh,
lost
I
you.
had to clear
Oh,
my camera because it was blurry. I noticed it was earlier. I was like, oh, can't see me.
like what happened a lot when I was a kid because the temperatures have risen, so it's not really like it used to be for me. But it would snow and it would be crisp and then it would ice over. And we have at my parents'
Yeah.
house a hill on both sides of the house. And I was on a dead end street with a bunch of neighbor kids. So we would all, like in the middle of the night, after it iced over, we would all get our sleds and go like really fast sledding down these icy hills. And
Wow.
it was just so much fun. And the parents would join us. And
Oh,
it
that's
was
fun.
fantastic.
I love that. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot to embrace with this time of year. All
Oh my
right,
God.
so
I just
oh,
wait. I'm sorry. I just
no, it's
realized
okay.
the memory that I'm thinking of happened on this date 18
Really?
years ago. My
Wow.
mom got us out of bed in the middle of the night, and all the parents did the same because the snow was perfect for snowboard. They drank and had fun till late in the
I
night.
love that. Right. Yeah, I
But I
love
know
that.
this is the specific day because my cousin was born at 1:30 in the morning, and while we were outside sledding, my mom got the call that my cousin was born.
Oh,
So
that's like
this
so
memory
special.
is literally 18 years prior to this
Wow. Well,
on this
happy
day.
18th birthday to your cousin. That's
Oh wait,
awesome.
17? One of the two. She's a
Yeah,
teenager, a late
that's
teenager.
awesome. I
But
love
it's
that.
just that's so funny that came to my head.
I love that. All right, so that is the energy for right now. So we're in a very warm, cozy, peaceful vibe. And I mean, it makes sense. We both are drinking red wine right now. So I feel
Mm-hmm.
very warm inside.
Me too.
So definitely bear with us on this episode, but I'm really excited. All right, so Alexis, do you want to define visitation dreams for us, and maybe, I guess, specific to spirit guides and entities?
Yeah, absolutely. So, just so you guys know, if you missed last week's episode, we talked about visitation and dreams, but the visitation experiences were with deceased loved ones or deceased people who had come into the dream realm. So, today we're going to be talking about the other type of visitations in your dream, which include spirit guides and other outside entities that aren't yourself. I'm going to go over in the field drum. Oh my gosh, the field guide for lucid dreaming. One of the type of native that corresponds with the spirit guide or visitation dreams, evidently is called the guide. It's a high awareness dream native. So this type of native seems to know much more than you do. They usually appear with some important information to communicate, to help guide you through the landscape of the dream world, or give you much needed advice about your waking world problems. These natives have a quality about them that seems uniquely their own, so completely outside of yourself. And their presence will be powerful. And when we think about spirit guides, historically, and again, I'm getting this directly from this book, The Field Guide for Lucid Dreaming, which is one of our OGs, one of my OG favorite books.
No,
I
I love
feel
that
like
book.
you
Yeah.
really love it too. But
Yeah, no, I love it.
historically, the term spirit guide generally refers to one or more entities who protect, teach, and heal you on your physical journey into spiritual awareness. The idea pops up in many cultures. It's believed that an individual may have more than one spirit guide, and the guide may change over the course of someone's lifetime. These beings are here to help us when we are in turmoil or seeking assistance. Now,
Mhm.
the dream guide shows up in a variety of different ways. I know that you've expressed different ways that your dream guides have shown up. I've expressed different ways my dream guides have showed up, and we've seen dream examples as well. They can be a animal, they can be an energy, an essence, a light, past loved one, a deity, a god. There's so many ways that spirit guides can enter into your dream, and it's uniquely your own experience.
Mhm.
um, I really, really love this book, The Alchemy of Your Dreams by Athena Lays. She actually talks about uh, spirit guides, and the way she goes about it is talking about the aspect of the spirit guide coming to help you and what they're helping you through. And generally, a spirit guide comes during a transitional period in your life. Now, we go through many chapters in our lives, which means there's a lot of transitional periods. It's not just a one time experience. So this is like the liminal space between one chapter in your life and the next, or just, a changing period, from being, single to married, or in a relationship to married, moving locations, having a baby, just graduating. There's so many different aspects of our lives where this transitional period may leave us kind of confused and uncomfortable, and might keep us cemented in our place,
Mhm.
where this is where the spirit guide would come to hold our hand and help guide us through these experiences.
Mhm.
um and again, they come in so many different forms. I know, like, what one of the most interesting experiences that many experiences, but one of the most interesting experiences I've had with a dream guide approaching was they entered my dream literally right before I woke up, and they were just like this shooting star, glowing, sparkly kind of essence in the sky passing through. And I could just feel that it was not of myself. And that's
Mhm.
exactly how visitation dreams work. The whatever they may be in your dream, they are outside of yourself, completely unique, and often just like provide information that you wouldn't have gotten on your own.
Mhm. Yeah, what I like that one of the things I like that you said, and I had to go through the clarification in my head, and then I was like, oh, am I going to share the clarification? Was like the term dream guide, where at first I was like, okay, dream guide, is that like the dream creator, which I've heard people refer to as well. And then when you went on to describe it, it was very clear. You're like, okay, spirit guides and the
Mm-hmm.
dream, the guides that show up in the dream. And then I came around again to my own personal experience of what I felt, that like I felt that I met my dream guides, like my dream creators, who were also spirit guides. So it's a
Mm-hmm.
really interesting just perspective. They, like you said, they can show up in so many ways. Jace mentioned that they can like guide you in the dreams directly and indirectly. So that
Yep.
indirectly experience might be as the dream creator.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I had that experience, like I knew right away as soon as I saw them and they had like this specific device in their hand, and I was like, oh my gosh, you're like the person in charge of the, like, whatever, the spirit in charge of the dreams.
I remember you
And
sharing that.
yeah, so
Wow.
yeah, go ahead.
In regards to that, the guiding directly or indirectly, when I had just mentioned the spirit guide that had entered my dream, being like this kind of shooting star essence. There's multitude of different ways you could take that guidance. Literally, like, looking towards the stars for answers. So maybe like looking more into my birth chart for more information about myself to help guide me through these next few chapters of my life, or the rest of my life. And along with that, it could be, going in the direction that I was concerned or confused about, going in that direction. But I find that the way that they communicate is so interesting. And it's even more interesting when you have to dig a little bit for the message.
Sorry, technical difficulties.
That's okay.
Um, do you want to share like an experience or something while I'm putting out a fire here with the
Yeah,
little?
I'm actually going to talk a little bit about lucid dreaming and
Yeah,
meeting your
that's
spirit guide.
perfect. Yeah.
So, when it comes to lucid dreaming, now lucid dreaming, you're aware of the fact that you're within the dream space while you're dreaming. So you have full awareness in your dream and you're able to do things, make decisions, create new pathways, create new areas to explore. And with this ability, you're able to not only just receive a message from your spirit guides, but it also gives you an opportunity to have conversations. I have had conversations with spirit guides who were past loved ones, and I understood the path that it took, like in the dream, the path I took to reach a separate location with the spirit guide, and it became more real. The perspective changed a little bit. Things became more clear, and you could tell there was a mutual energy output, not just kind of like NPC or like yourself. And having the conversation, like I was able to ask questions. In this circumstance, I was able to ask my grandfather about his astrological time of birth so I could look into his chart more. And he didn't give me a direct answer, but he chatted with me a little bit about it. And it eventually led to, after waking up from this dream and my curiosity being piqued and taking time to meditate, and I was able to get to a point where I, at this point in my life, discovered what his time of birth was through meditation and visualization. So it's really interesting to be lucid within your dream and encountering that dream guide.
Yeah, so my grandmother, I've mentioned, has been a spirit guide for me. And I remember when I had the intention to talk to her, to ask her, I forgot there was a specific question I wanted to ask her. And when I saw her finally had that moment of being lucid and she came into the dream, I was able to ask her what I needed to. And like the turn of the dreams, it was really interesting, and it was something that unraveled a further like deeper dive into whatever was going on with like my ancestors or the connection with her and the question. But it was really profound as far as like being able to be lucid and connect with, say, her as my spirit guide. And then, as I mentioned before, with the dream creator, as I like the dream guide in that way, I was lucid at that point too. And it was really interesting at that particular dream. I didn't feel at that point in control. Like I was lucid, but I didn't have control of the dream. And I remember Jace mentioned that sometimes when you're lucid, but you don't necessarily have control, like you're more so like astral traveling, like you might be somewhere
Mm-hmm.
else. So I definitely resonate with that. And that makes sense to me because it's like, well, you don't really have, control over the environment and the changes. You have control over your own actions and
Mm-hmm.
what you say and do. But when it comes to, oh, I want to like, change this part, or I want to insert this person, like it always doesn't happen like on demand, so to speak. And so I had that experience was really interesting. And I realized that um, the more practice I have with dream work or just even being lucid in dreams, the more like I'm more aware, and I feel when those spirit guides show up, I'm actually lucid. And that happened like last month, or maybe the month or 2 months ago. I had a dream involving panthers and leopards, and I was lucid in the dream. I wasn't, and it was one of those experiences where I wasn't really changing the dream. And I think I'm stepping more into your territory, Alexis, where like I'm lucid, I'm aware, I'm conscious, and I'm in the space. Like it's like I'm in my world, and I'm not trying to control or change things, but it's in the dream space. And so I was a witness of what was going on. And while I'm still uncovering what that dream really means and the message there, it definitely felt like when I got out of the dream, I was like, oh yeah, the big cats, they're my family. Like, I mean, there were at least 10 cats. There were like 2 or 3 leopards, and like the rest were Black Panthers. And I was like, yeah, my family's here. So it's really interesting to like the experience of being lucid while where your spirit guides are present in the dreams.
Absolutely. And to add to real quick, the dream guides that, dream guide or spirit guides, I'm sorry, take many different forms. It can be really playful. So something I experience, and I believe you experience as well, Urania, is when our dream guides come into our dreams disguised as people we kind of look up to, or people we enjoy or relate to. So like, I know for you, Kim K or Chloe K will come in, and it's really funny, but it makes so much sense, because if your dreams, like your spirit guide comes through and puts on a disguise as something that you enjoy and trust, you might have an easier time listening and gathering messages. I know for mine, I have one of my favorite actors who comes into my dreams, and it's my spirit guide disguised as this person, David Tennant. And like, the dreams are always so very interesting. I'm always lucid. It's always like, it's just it's a different energy when you have a spirit guide. Like, I've had dreams where like it's just an NPC type energy, but like when you have the spirit guide visitations, it feels completely different. But it's also fun.
It is fun. So I need you to hold it down, the conversation, for 1 second solo, because I have to unlock the door. You would think Mercury's still retrograde. I'll be right back.
Hey, we're in the shadow period right now.
We're in the shadow.
So,
this is the shadow life.
So I'm going to share one of the interesting dreams I've had with a spirit guide. I don't know why I keep saying dream guide. It just fits nicely, but spirit guide. I had a dream where I was in a cafeteria. I was with my family, and I was, I ended up leaving to go to the bathroom. I went to the bathroom, left the bathroom, and as I was walking back into the cafeteria, there was this Siamese twin, like pair of twins, both male, from like the 70s era. And everybody around me had no connection to me, no energy output to me, nothing. But this set of Siamese twins, it was exactly what that definition explains. They have a powerful presence. They know it, that they're not a part of you, that it's completely separate. And I remember they like touched my jacket, was like, I really like your jacket. And then we like kept moving forward, but it was a different type of energy. And I don't know. I mean, I personally have never met a Siamese twins. I've never had that experience before. I don't know where my brain would have gotten that from. It almost felt like, I don't know, like a spirit guide from who passed away in the 70s, or some kind of energy like that. Like, nobody I knew, but it was very pointed. It was a very strong just energy. It's a different
Was there
thing.
like a message that you like, what did you get from that? Like, what was the takeaway afterwards?
It was, honestly, I felt like let me see, when was this in this time period? I had this dream while we were still talking, like when we were talking, and I believe it was in the beginning of us doing these live chats. And the whole dream was crazy. I mean, I ended up leaving the cafeteria, went on a bus. The bus like had no top. I was like soaking in the sun, and then the bus crashed, and there was some like
Oh, I
technological
remember
thief,
this.
and
I
then I
remember it.
came into contact with this other like woman, and it was just, it was, the dream was packed with messages. But I almost felt like it was just like a comfort, a warmth, a like you're not
Yeah.
alone. I almost feel like it that energy helped me through the rest of the dream, which was kind of like a disaster.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that. Yeah, that makes sense. So I like when you mention as far as like the spirit guides kind of showing up as not like who someone we know, or it could be a direct spirit guide. And that really fascinates me just in my own experience because, like, I mean, it makes sense for me. And like, full disclosure, I've followed Keeping Up with the Kardashians, or when they had the first show, like from the very beginning. I think I was like 17 or 18 when that show came on. And so actually, I think I was older than that, but that's kind of what I go to, not to embarrass myself. But, anyways, nonetheless, like, I definitely admired her ambition. I think, like, I don't know, there was just something there. And so she'll show up in my dreams, and like her siblings at times will show up in my dreams. And it's always like the same kind of like cheerleader type energy. And it's always related to work. And so I think that's something that, just something to take note of when you have your, like, any dreams that feel very like celebratory, or they just like feel really high vibe. Like there's like just like this very happy and supportive feeling, like you mentioned, profound feeling with the dream. It's like, taking a deeper dive at the um like the people, or like the beings, whether it's an animal, because I think the animals might be a little bit more obvious, because I'm sure like those animals will show up that like we already have a relationship with those
Mhm.
particular animals. But when it comes to like people, maybe celebrities and things that you don't really have, like you've never met, obviously, I think that's something to pay attention to. What I will share, which was really funny, is that I had a dream recently with Khloe Kardashian and one of her best friends that shows up on the show. But then Kanye shows up lumped in with all of them. So that's not normal. But Elon Musk showed up, and I'm sorry, like, I know he showed up because of day residue. So I was on my phone before I went to bed, and I was looking at like something with him and Grimes. And so that's why that showed up. But I'm just like, but they all kind of fit in that same dynamic. And it
Mm-hmm.
was like a very celebratory, like exciting dream in reference to work. And so I don't know, it's just interesting how these energies show up and how they present themselves. And it really makes me think of, even in waking life with your spirit guides, and you'll notice how your spirit guides in your waking life will change form of how they show themselves to you. Like they might show up first as like, I'll say with me, Archangel Michael showed up first as like a very, very huge, tall figure. Like whenever I would call on him to like hold down my home, if I felt something weird or anything going on, like I would only see him from the torso down, and the rest of his body was out of the house. And
Oh,
then
like
got
in the
to,
Hercules movie, the animated Hercules movie,
yeah. And he
where
was
he's in the
always like in like
museum and you could only see
blue
his like feet
jeans.
and
Yeah.
leg. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was like he was always like it was like almost like the lumberjack type like archetype, but like just huge. And
Mm-hmm.
it was like blue jeans, and like it was just like so random. And I was like, why are you showing, like why is he coming up to me like coming to me like that? And then it changed to, well, I think before that it was like the typical angel figure,
Mm-hmm.
as you would see him with the flaming sword. Then it was just like pure light. And I've had spirit guides change forms of like however you perceive them, that's how they'll show, whatever's comfortable for you, that's how they'll show up. And I've started to see that in dreams as well. And so I'm like, well, who's embodying the Kim Kardashian form? Like I'm really curious about that. That's really
It is
cool.
it is very interesting. And to go off of that, like that point, I doing some self-reflection very briefly while we're sitting here talking, I realized too that I I'm very aware how alone our human experiences, like how lonely our human experiences can be, because we're all completely different. We've all had completely different upbringings, different way, like things we've gone through. And I am very, very aware of that individualism and that loneliness. And sometimes that
Yeah.
loneliness, like most of the time I'm fine with it. Like I'm okay with myself. Like we're cool. Like we can move through these things and do the best we can. But sometimes I really get down on myself because I really feel like I'm alone, completely alone in a negative way. And I think especially with like people that I relate to coming through in my dreams. So like David Tennant, I relate to a lot. Like his the way the characters he plays and the way he's kind of like goofy, and like I relate to him a lot. So I feel like my spirit guide would come through as him to give me a feeling of not being so alone, and so, you know, not to be angsty, but like misunderstood and not heard. There's like a void that that type of mask that spirit guide would be wearing would, you know, provide. There's like an actual service and point to why it would be that specific thing. And you know, I can, as we sit here, my brain's kind of like turning the wheels, and I'm realizing more and more about myself and why and how the dreams or the spirit guides come in and why they come in the way they do. I mean, even the, you know, animals are such an interesting spirit, like way the spirit guides will come through. And you know, I have a lot of birds that come through in my dreams. I know you have a lot of cats that come through in your dreams, and you know, I'm sure you have the same experience in regards to the fact that it's not just an animal in your dream. It is you and the animal completely connected together. You guys are both in a like in the same state of awareness. That is powerful and beyond the dream space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm curious for those of you listening. So if you're listening live or in the chat or the replay, comment in the chat like what spirit guides come through for you. I'm really curious. Do you have a lot of animals? Do you have, you know, like angels or, you know, spiritual beings, ascended masters, or do you have,
Celebrities.
yeah, celebrities? Like I'm really curious. I'm all over the spectrum. So
Same.
but it's so cool and it's so much fun. I do want to touch on entities because I felt the way we titled it, because it made it seem like it was different. It's not, doesn't necessarily have to be different.
Mm-hmm.
However, we do get visitations from other beings. And, you know, I'm sure there are some people out there that get visitations from what they would perceive as aliens. And I
Mm-hmm.
will say, as a preteen and someone who's like diehard X-Files, like X-Files fan, I went to the expo and everything. I like loved
Love
that
that about you
show.
so
I
much.
like really wanted to be abducted, or like I wanted a visitation like in my sleeping time. So like I don't know, it's really funny to think about those other experiences. And um yeah, I you know, I surveyed some people, or I asked on my story if people had any experiences with, you know, entities and spirit guides. And I mean, there are definitely a lot for spirit guides. I didn't really get much from entities, and one person has to follow up with me who I'm like, I know you've been visited by like weird like fairies and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
um but personally, I would say, as far as like my visitations from beings that aren't spirit guides, they are a little bit like, they catch me off guard. Most of the time for me, it's like in that in between space, as I mentioned before,
Yep.
which tend to be kind of malevolent and like trickster energy. I have had dreams before where they've been like, it, I didn't realize it until I woke up, and it was like kind of like a what was that type experience. And it felt like, it all, for me, it always, and I think it could be just my energy and what I have going on, but like it felt very trickster. It just felt like there's a figure called Baphomet, which is like, it's like the devil figure. Like it's the goat person, where the it's
Mm-hmm.
like the goat head with like the breast, and it's like the hermaphrodite basically. Um and I've had this figure visit me in dreams. And I think that it's also it was kind of like that spirit guide type energy at the same time, but I was like really unfamiliar. And since there's already like a negative connotation with this figure, I was kind of like, already had like a negative, perspective of it. But then after reflecting on it, um, and doing a bit more research on this being, this entity, I realized that this entity, Baphomet, holds the space of duality. And so it's the space of like duality of realities in a sense. While it does hold both genders as well, what I've learned is that Baphomet is an avatar for the person that quote unquote created it, but it's also holding the space. It's very like connected to the astral realm. And I thought it was really interesting because when I came into like a close connection with Baphomet through dreams and even in the in between, is right before I started getting into dream work. So I'm like, oh, and I had in my astrology, Capricorn was the place, the house in the area of life in my chart was ruled by Capricorn, and it was dealing with communications, and my moon is there and travel, like short distance travel, so to speak. But it all kind of made sense. And I was like, I think that this figure, even though it was coming off initially as like kind of negative and more of like the entity type, ooh, this is like some weird spirit that's kind of like intrusive, it ended up being a spirit guide. And so for me personally, I feel like those entities that are definitely intrusive come in the in between, but I haven't really had any like negative energies that I can recall that came directly into my dreaming space.
It's almost like you needed the attention grab. Like it
Mm-hmm.
really needed your attention. And it's very interesting, the other entities, like whereas, when we think about these things, I'm somebody who finds the multiple universe, uh, different timeline, all these types of theories extremely interesting. And I feel like when we dream, there is that aspect of astral traveling and entering into different timelines, different universes, dimensions, whatever it may be, and the entities that we encounter through those experiences, whether they're aliens or we're aliens, is kind of up in the air. But I find that extremely interesting. And when I was a kid, I had a lot of like experiences in that hypnagogic state where like I would be laying in bed waiting to go to sleep, and I would kind of like feel this like slithering entity come around the like the bend to where my like stairs were. And like I remember laying in bed and in this state and seeing like just a ring of sprites or small entities of different colors, kind of like it just lingering. And it wasn't, even though there was periods where I was fearful, it wasn't actually malicious.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that. And like when you just with what you just shared, I think that what could be helpful if people are experiencing and I feel like the entity experience might come through nightmares. So I feel like maybe people who have recurring nightmares, or just when you have those nightmare experiences, that's when you might get what feels to be like some sort of like negative entity, because I've definitely had that. But again, it's always when I feel like there's like a visitor, like a visitation, like something's coming in, it's like usually the in between.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
so that's my personal experience. Like they can't necessarily penetrate my dream space, like that
Mm-hmm.
place. And who knows, maybe I have some special protection, but that's like the thing that I wanted to bring to attention is like the importance of protection when you are, like even if you're not intentionally dreaming, you're not like trying to like, have these journeys and lucid dream and everything, just even basic, bedroom etiquette would be like to have like a clear, bed space, to have
Mm-hmm.
like protection,
Mm-hmm.
and to be able to um just feel safe and secure like in that space. And that safety and that security and protection will help to, create that, safety net like as you travel into other experiences.
Absolutely.
And so I want to we'll check in with the chat. And then there's a few experiences, a few shares that we want to share with all of you in reference to just, what people have shared over social media and our polls and questions. And so we'll be happy to share that with you all. I just want to go through the comments here. There's been a lot of chat through the comments. And there was one here that, see. So Jay says, while moderating a dream chat, someone told him that their dream where an old lady basically took over the dream and then reset it after he got through where she wanted to. The old lady was a guide. Okay. The way that started, I was like, ooh, that sounds like very creepy.
Yes, if you just said that to me without like any context, I would immediately think creepy, which makes me think, why does our brain, when we hear old lady, go right to creepy?
Right. And it's like they took over the dream and then reset it. I'm like, oh, no, no, no. Like, slow down. But okay, it was for the benefit of this person. And, then I get into the whole speculation of like, well, is everything like, is it always, usually in your favor? I don't know. I mean, I know
It
there are like,
probably is. It's
yeah,
probably just our projections. Like, I
yeah.
know when I was younger, I was afraid of the dark, and I was afraid of the house. And I know that it was because I could feel things, but I didn't know what it was, so I was scared. Where like now, I don't feel that fear. So the dreams usually are more in favor. The experiences I have are better.
Yeah. All right. So Jen says, I love when my guides and spirit animals come to me in dreams. um then yes, I love that too. I love those dreams the best because
Yes.
I also asked, and a few people did respond. I also asked, like, how do you feel, after waking in the dreams where you have visitations from spirit guides and entities? And I think most people recall the spirit guide dreams, and we all feel this like raise in vibration. Like whenever I
Yes.
have those dreams where there's like Kim Kardashian, like those kind of celebrity, that my specific celebrity dreams, like
Mm-hmm.
it's like now that I've had the repeated pattern, I'm like, yeah, it's exciting. But
Yes.
even before that, it was like, oh, I feel so motivated and productive, and like I'm gonna do all these things.
It feels
And
intoxicating too. Like I
yeah,
know that when I have
yeah, they're
those
really
types of
good.
dreams, it's really hard to be awake throughout the day and not feel like you're still in that dream space.
Yeah. And it's good when it's like that. And the panther dreams, like when I have dreams about big cats, and usually they're black panthers, I feel like it's like I have to go on this journey. Like there's more to uncover. Like it's more
Mm-hmm.
mysterious with those kind of dreams,
Yep.
but it's still like a high vibe experience.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Do you feel like with your animal dreams, like your bird dreams, do you feel like there's more digging to do, or like how do
Oh
you feel
yeah,
like,
it's like
yeah.
it's when I have these moments with the birds that enter my dream, it's always just this intense knowing that comes to me. It is protection. I feel safe, and it's encouraging for me to go forward to finish whatever I need to finish. And
Yeah.
I find that that happens like, and birds is, I get it with birds, and I get it with, bats, and different kinds of birds. So like owls and herons and ravens and,
Mm,
you know, uh, ducks. And it
ooh,
really is,
yeah.
it's just this energy of like a download of knowledge almost. It's like
Yeah.
we're in the moment together. It's really powerful. And then I have this knowledge of how to continue forward.
Hmm.
It's I don't know, it's a different experience. And it's
Yeah.
definitely different than the human trope of, you know, the human masks that the spirit guides would wear. It's different in animal form. It's just a different energy.
Yeah, I've had a few dreams with birds, and maybe like two or three. And it's always like, I mean, those dreams are way more like profound than my cat dreams, because I feel like the cat dreams make sense and they're familiar, like pun intended. And I think like I definitely have a connection to birds, and I really feel connected to like ravens and crows. And then owls too. But yeah, there was, I don't even remember what kind of bird it was in one of the dreams that I had, but I can recall the feeling in the dream. And there was like a lot going on with like, because there was astrology, there was like, oh, come see the sun. And like the moon was out with the sun. And it was like, but it was a new moon. So it's like, it shouldn't, like, I shouldn't be able to see the moon. And it was like very interesting, like otherworldly things happening. And it like was specific to the moon and like my astrology and something like in my waking life. So that was like I kind of lumped the bird in with that. So no, those are really cool.
I feel like for us too, birds, I don't know, the air element with birds, there's a connection, but also like with Scorpio as our rising, and in the first house, there's this element of the phoenix, and the phoenix is a bird
Yeah.
that dies and is reborn continuously. And I feel like that's just it being in the first house really represents a part of us that's a little more complex.
Yeah. So ashes to ashes, like that's actually a perfect like
Yes.
connection there.
Great transition.
Phoenix, ashes to ashes. I love that. So ashes to ashes says, is asking if we get down with Carlos Castaneda. Castaneda. I hope I spelled that. I said that right. Are you familiar with Carlos Castaneda?
I'm gonna be absolutely honest with you. I'm terrible with names.
Yeah.
So I can't say yes or no because
Yeah.
there's a chance I have come across him and my brain just threw away the words because that's what
Yeah.
happens.
So I know Jace. From my understanding, I'm not familiar. I'm only familiar because I've heard Jace talk about it, because Jace says it's his mentors, one of his mentors, like his mentor was an apprentice to Carlos. So that's why I've heard. But if you guys want to give a little bit more info about Carlos, then we can see
Or
if
we can do
Alexis
an
is.
episode because we, you know,
Yeah,
we've been talking about wanting to do episodes on inspirational people in the
and
dream work
dreams. Yeah,
community,
so that'd
and
be good.
that
Like,
would be
yeah,
a person that I would be interested in learning more about
yeah,
and
do a
sharing
deep
with
dive.
the community.
Yeah, so let's see what else we have here in the chat. Doo-doo. So Jen says Eagles, red tail hawks, Odin, Archangel Michael. Oh yeah, we have something to share from you, Jen, as far as Odin, visitations, um, demons, shadow shed things, shadow shade things, demons, angels. Yeah. There was an interesting time where I definitely recall this as a possession experience. And in this possession experience that I had, it was very hard to decipher what was dream and what was happening in real life. And I'm pretty sure this was in real life, but it could have been a dream. And there were like shadow things in my room. Oops. Coming through the window. And yeah, so as far as shadow things, and yeah, it's like for me, it's always the in between with the really heavy figures.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Let's see. Mary says, I used to have a bright light poltergeist energy force that was vacuuming my dad from his bedroom. Wow. Oh, I remember you telling me about this, Mary. This repeated for years prior to his leaving this earth. These dreams stopped once he passed on. That's interesting.
Was it similar to, like, I don't know if you guys have seen the poltergeist, but like the closet door, I believe it's the closet, is the pathway to like the astral plane or the spiritual plane, and it kind of is vacuuming everything in the room into it, and the like girl is like holding on to the door, like that's exactly what I imagined when I, by the way, that was the first horror movie I saw when I was like 5.
Oh my Oh,
It
that's the
left a
movie. Okay, wait, what's the
mark.
name of that movie? Do you remember?
Poltergeist.
Oh, Poltergeist. I feel like I may have seen that movie once. That's like one of those movies like that, The Exorcist. Like I definitely saw The Exorcist once or
Mm-hmm.
twice. Definitely once, but those kind of movies are really hard for me to watch because I have experiences with that. Even when I think like even when I was young, although I blocked it out, I don't recall it, but like I've had really bad experience. So it's even when I was in a horror movies, like Exorcist was off limits. Poltergeist was like off limits, although I've
Mm-hmm.
seen it once. But yeah, that is oof. And even like the movies like Paranormal Activity and The Ring, like I've seen those and I like love those, but those were like definitely like tiptoeing on the borderline for me as far as like horror movies and like what I've experienced. And because I know that you can actually experience that and people just have certain sensitivities and it's like ugh,
Mm-hmm.
like you don't
Yeah.
need any
Yeah.
help. Let's see what else we got here. I feel Ashes says, I feel like we are energy blobs, like candle lights in the dark. When we dream, we can attract other entities from the layered realities, just like we can slip into other ones, but some are malevolent. Yeah. Like you're fortunate enough if you don't experience that in your dream space. And they also mentioned Ash to Ashes mentioned that they could be malevolent and hungry. So they can be energy vampires. I definitely agree with that. I haven't come across that in dreams, but I know Jace mentions that also about energy vampires.
The only energy
Okay.
vampires I have ever come across are in real life, in the waking
Yeah,
realm
they're
with
very
different
obvious.
people. Very, very, very obvious.
Yeah. Oof. Okay. So Mary says, I've also had Jesus, Holy Mary, Mary Magdalene, dogs, foxes, actual scenes and setups. Varies large numbers of people seem to show up frequently. So they must be Mary for you. Like the people, I mean, the other entities and spirit guides make sense. The people in large groups, do they feel like intrusive to you in your dream space? As far as like, yeah, just those energies coming through like a giant entity. Cause I know like you can like lump zombie type dreams into that, where it's like those to me feel like entities, like, I mean, zombie dreams are definitely their own spectrum of dreams, but
Mm-hmm.
that in a sense can be like, speaking of energy vampires and just that type of vibe where it's like a whole big collective of like, this. So I see that. Okay, let's see what's going on. Just talk about Carlos. So we're gonna have to look into Carlos. Maybe we'll have to have Jace come on.
Yeah, we're gonna have to
Live.
do a whole episode because I really want to. I like. There's so many people in the dream community who are very important to the growth and development of understanding, and I have a very difficult time learning, but my one of my ways of learning is through doing these types of episodes where we go deep into a topic and we're learning and expressing the experiences with the community, and I think that's something we definitely should do.
Yeah. All right, so we want to go ahead and share the dreams that we have from just people who contributed um
Yeah,
for this topic.
sure. Do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
Sure, I'll go first. So, this one is about Jesus. And so I asked on my story on Instagram, have you had visitations in your dreams from your spirit guides or other beings slash entities? And so what this person communicated to me, or Mary, I'm sure I can share, your name. So Mary said yes. When Jesus told me he wouldn't forgive me, I think I've shared this one with you too, as I was accompanied by Mary Magdalene, seen as he leaves his tomb. I was devastated. It was when I fell off the swing, I think you said it injured your face. You were fed with a straw the first few days, and then your mom told you to pray for healing and then promised $50 you didn't have as a kid. Then you had the dream and you thought what Jesus forgives all, and it startled you woke. And I thought that was interesting too, because I actually had to double check with you, Mary, to ask if like, wait, was that a typo? Did he forgive you or didn't he forgive you? And he actually didn't forgive you. And so like just based on that itself, I was like, okay, that felt like I know Jesus is a spirit guide for you, and I felt like that is completely out of Jesus's nature because he's like all about forgiveness. So I'm like, that is a teacher moment
Mm-hmm.
for you and learning forgiveness. And I mean, I think from what I recall, Mary, you were pretty young when you had this dream, or maybe you were like a teenager. So you have to remind me because I think that'll be important. But I mean, I feel like with Jesus, he teaches self-forgiveness. And so I think that was kind of the aim there about forgiving yourself in some sort of capacity. So please let us know in the chat if you're still here, like if that was, if you feel that self-forgiveness was kind of the aim there, because that is so out of character for Jesus, the Jesus archetype in itself. And I think that that out of character experience was the profound factor, because it's like, you're not going to forget this, because it's like, oh my gosh, if Jesus isn't forgiving me, like I might as well fucking end it. You know what I mean? Like, so yeah, that was kind of my take on that.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And I thought of the same thing. I'm not very I wasn't brought up in religion. Like I really don't know that much about it. I don't have much connection to it. So my understanding is minimal. But right off the bat, I felt this energy of like whatever you did, you felt so upset about that yeah, exactly, you couldn't forgive yourself. And that's where this, because it would have been right if he said, okay, I forgive you. You were forgiven by Jesus in your dream. You were forgiven, that how that played in your waking life. You may have been validated from that external source, but still suffering with that internal source, of the self. So I feel like that was definitely, even though it probably wasn't really you being not forgiven, it was a push for you to find that within yourself for sure.
Yeah, and Mary says yes, and that she was a child. Yeah. So that's pretty profound dream to have as a child. And Mary was raised like Catholic,
Mm-hmm.
like legit Italian Catholic. So or Sicilian, I'm sorry. So yeah, I can see how that can have a really powerful impact on you. And
Absolutely.
I think that like having that kind of dream too as a child with Jesus, I think that definitely cemented your connection to Jesus as a spirit guide like early on, which I think is like really profound when you can meet your spirit guides, in such like an archetype that has such profound like energy, and to meet them, to have
Mm-hmm.
dreams about them as a youth. Like one of my
Yes.
spiritual teachers have met her guides when she was like 5 years old, and I'm just like, damn. Like
Mm-hmm.
I just like I mean I have no idea. Like, maybe I started watching, videos of wild cats when I was like that age, like around 5 with my grandmother. And that was like the best times ever. So who knows? Like maybe I did meet my spirit guides at 5, but I don't
You
know if I was having
probably
dreams
did.
about them. Right. So I don't know if I was having dreams. I don't remember them, but like that's a pretty big deal. So yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Yes, thank you for sharing that, Mary.
She says that I felt abandoned alone. She said, he's my lifeline. It took me a minute to overcome it. And then mom told her that you had to pay the debt. And she gave me the money I promised and donated it to the church for the unveiled saints as it is. But I'm like, also, it was Easter too. And this is my issue. You're a child. Like, children for the most part are innocent.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, what, I mean, we can like speculate about past lives and stuff, but I'm just like, that's a tricky one. We'll go down that rabbit hole personally, but like, yeah, I just like, I'm trying to think as a mom, I'm like, how would I handle that? You
Yeah.
know? So, and that comes with a lot of other things in reference to like probably what was coming up in the dream as far as self-forgiveness and, you know, that. So that was interesting. Thank you for sharing, Mary.
All right, so I'll go right into what Jen has shared with us, which is kind of like, oh my God, I just lost the words. Sorry. Anyway, so I'll share what comes through for her, and we can go into that a little more. So Jen sent us a message. She said, I have had Odin come to me a few weeks ago. His two ravens were with him. I had asked a question before I went to sleep, and Odin appeared to give me the message. Odin has been a deity I've been working with. There was more to the dream, but I can't recall it right now. My dreams are either outside in the meadow area surrounded by wildflowers or inside a house, but the house is never typical. This summer I had a dream and it was my current place, but each room was shaped differently. As I walked to the bathroom, the flooring changed and I was suddenly on the floor, and there was a slide that went through the door to my landlord's place upstairs. And so I went on the slide, and next thing I knew, I was outside. When I looked up, there was a gigantic oak tree and a bald eagle, a red-tailed hawk circulating above. Circling, I'm sorry, guys. Circling above. Of course, there was a message from them to me. Hawk and eagles are my spirit animals as well as ravens. So again, the birds coming
Yeah.
through as spirit guides, and I'm wondering, Jen, does it feel similar to what we explained, where there's a different type of energy that birds bring? It's very directional, very like intense and powerful, but also like very protective. I'm also curious, and of course you don't have to share, but I'm very curious what you asked that you received the answer to in your dream. Like, I don't know much about Catholicism. I don't know much about Odin, which is uh,
Norse.
Norse.
Norse
I was like, I
mythology.
know it.
Mhm.
It's at the top of my head. Norse mythology.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, yeah, she says definitely, yes, definitely a different energy. So I think like for me, Odin reminds me of like makes me think of Merlin, but Odin is a little bit more like edgier. I
mhm.
feel that like than Odin, or Odin is a little bit more edgier than Merlin.
Is Odin the
And
god of war? Is that
yeah,
what
so
he's
there's,
known
I think it's
for?
like I just did a Google search. So it's war, it's like war, battle, victory, sorcery, poetry, frenzy was something that was mentioned, like definitely the god of wisdom. And so it's like, yeah, and it's like the father of Thor, I
Mhm.
believe. Like he's like the father of like Thor and then other like really major um gods and goddesses. And it makes me think of but for whatever reason when I was connecting to, especially with the oak tree and then the birds, I
Mhm.
was connecting to Merlin and just the like the mystical nature of that in like the red-tailed hawk. So there was a lot of like bird imagery there, which would automatically draw into me like wisdom and knowledge and the power of like words and
And oak
just that
trees alone are a
nature.
symbolism of wisdom, which is
Yeah.
interesting. But I wonder, do you need a sense of courage when, like, prior to Odin coming to your dream? Do you feel like you need a sense of courage and direction? And of course, you don't have to answer that, but thinking about, of course, just the what we Googled of
Mm.
the understanding of him, but like, when does he show up? Is it during these periods of time where you may feel a little more weak or unsteady? And And you need like some strong courageous energy to help you through whatever you're going through.
Yeah, so Jen's already commented. She says, yes, definitely a different energy. Yes, exactly to what you just said. And then she says that Odin has come to me this year while I was going through a huge transformation. He has helped me through some major shadow work and stepped into my authenticity. And she says, yes, you nailed it.
Wow.
And so that just really affirms that whole like showing up in transitional periods. And I think out of everything, that is key. Like when you're in a transitional period and like they might show up to guide you and teach you along the way, like little things. But in those transitional periods, when you're really like going through it and moving through it, you know what's going on. Like that is like really pay attention to like who and what is showing up in your dreams at that time.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you
Okay.
so much for sharing, Jen.
Thank you so much, Jen, for sharing. Like that was, yeah, I love that. All right, so we have one more dream share tonight from my Instagram. So this one is actually kind of like a combination of last week and this week. So last week we talked about visitation dreams from souls beyond the veil. So that could be, like family members and such. And so this person responded that yes, in 2018, I was making plans to meet my great grandmother, my mom's maternal grandmother, for the first time. The night before she passed, she visited me in a dream. I was on the front steps of her house and she hugged me goodbye and said she'd teach me everything I needed to know. I started driving away and got a phone call that said she died. When I woke up the next morning, I had a text from my mom that said she had passed that night. I never got to meet her physically, but she is one of my fiercest guides, readers, intuitives, always sense her presence around me immediately. Oh my gosh, that like almost brought me to tears.
That gave me such chills because honestly, it's like meeting in the physical realm is not necessary. If you're meant to be with that person, if you're meant to receive guidance and messages and support and love and care, it'll be on any plane.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was just like, I can't imagine like how, I mean, I know my mom's grandmother. I don't know my dad's grandmother, but like my mom's grandmother I had like such a sweet connection with, and I have never experienced her in dreams, which is interesting. So I'm like, can you come to me in dreams, please? But I can't imagine like meeting them, like planning to meet them and then having that like auspicious interaction with them,
It was like weird
and it's
divine
like you
time.
have this whole relationship in the dream space. Like that's so profound.
It is like again that divine timing where like I just it is so profound that gave me chills.
Yeah, and I love just like how like family members can be spirit guides and how we connect, like that connection was made before she transitioned. And it's interesting, I know I've heard, and just I don't even know where I've heard it, but just around where people will like they transition. It's like a thing where they transition and then boom, they're like better support to you as a spirit guide, and like that's kind of like their role. It's almost like an
Mm-hmm.
agreement or something that was like kind of determined ahead of time, and it's like, oh, I'm planning to meet you, and I really want to make this connection. And not everyone feels that way about every grandparent, great grandparent, or grandparent,
Mm-hmm.
and it was like this specific grandparent, she was like already in the works of like, okay, I want to like build a relationship. And it's like that relationship is going to be built, but she did not know that it was going to be built in the dream realm.
Yeah.
And also she was going to be guided, and her great grandmother was like, oh, I'm going to teach you everything I know.
Mm-hmm.
And then boom, like she wakes up and she finds out that that's impeccable, that's really impressive. And
It's
like
just so
You can't make it up.
peculiar and mysterious, and there's no answers to why it happened aside from you guys were meant to meet.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's just when things like that happen, there's no explanation for it, and basking in the mystery is just, your brain just goes to so many different directions.
Wow, this was like this is what such a sweet episode. I love talking about, these types of dreams, and they're very inspiring, they're very comforting.
Me too.
So I'm sure we'll have more episodes on this. Do you have any, and we went like way, I guess not way over time, but this is a longer episode, and it was a really good topic. Feel free to please like this video if you enjoy talking, like listening and engaging with us. And also if you're listening to the replay, please, like and share with others. Alexis, do you have any other last words or any other points you want to touch on before we close it up?
This was such an incredible two-part episode. Well, two episodes talking about the visitation. I mean, it's so profound and unique, and from the experiences of how our spirit guides show up to just like what messages come through, it's incredible. And I thank all of you guys for participating and sharing, and I hope that you share more, even if it's just, weird dreams that are peculiar and you want us to dive deeper into. Feel free to share with us. And if you have suggestions for episodes, feel free to send that to us too. We're very open.
We are very open, and you can always send us a message if you have like an interesting dream. You can shoot us a message on Instagram or our email, interversepodcast@gmail.com. And yeah, I had someone today, I put up the question about, just have you had visitation dreams? And then someone responded with another dream. It wasn't a visitation dream, but it was like kind of like nightmare-ish. And they were like, I haven't like remembered a dream in so long, or had like a crazy dream in so long. Like, why are you asking about dreams today? And I was like, every Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern time, we're going live. We're talking about dreams, mysticism, astral travel. And so it was just really funny. I was like, this is, and so if you have those moments, regardless of what we're talking about, it could be a Monday, it could be a Saturday, like please do share if you desire, if you want someone to hold space. We don't have to necessarily share it on our podcast. We would love to, but if you want it private and you just want us to hold space, or maybe you want to hear our private, interpretation, please share with us via email or our Instagram. And we have a specific Instagram for our podcast, The Universe, at, Journey Through the Universe on Instagram. So all of that said, next week we will not be here live because it's going to be Christmas. And so we're going to release an archive chat. It'll be Sex and Dreams Part 2. So a completely different dynamic
We're
than the
taking the
space
energy
that
in a
we're
different
in.
direction.
But it was a fun chat. And it's like one of our most popular conversations and topics. And I think it's going to be right on time with what I've been receiving with the energy, with like Two of Cups nonstop, Two of Cups, Two of Cups, 2 of Cups in my collective readings and personal readings. So like intimacy and dreams is going to be a thing. So definitely check that out next week. And then after that, we will be live again with you on a Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern time. So thank you everyone for being here. Thank you, Alexis, as
Thank
always.
you.
I love being here with you.
Me as
And
well.
we'll talk to you guys in 2 weeks.
Have a happy
Have
holiday,
a
a
happy
happy winter
holiday.
solstice, and
See
come
you
back.
guys later. Come back, please join us. All right.